University in Grange, Indiana. I was there until I graduated with a career in political science, but I had thoughts of becoming an attorney, but they changed when they got in the service. But I got a job, a man named Harry Emerson, who at Diamond T Motor Car Company, who was a purchasing agent. And I knew his son, and when I got out of DePaul, got a job at Diamond T Motor Car Company, which in Cicero, where they were building half tracks. Half tracks are cars with automobiles with wheels on the front and track on the back like a tractor has, and they were being used in the war. And this is the purchasing department, and I was sitting there writing purchasing orders for 2 years, or a year and a half. But I was called up for the draft, and being in the defense industry, they deferred me. But the second time I came up, I told my parents, I said, all my friends are going in the service, both from college and high school. I said, I'm going to go in too. So I went in through the draft. On the 24th of July, on my 24th birthday, after receiving greetings from President Roosevelt and me going in the service, here's a picture here of our draft day lineup here, which used to be the Township Hall, is now the Village Hall in LaGrange. We all were pictured on the front page, about 26 of us, I think. And then we walked to the LaGrange Railroad Station, went into Chicago, and took a physical. It's kind of a strange situation there. I went into the man on the train. He said, this is the third time I've gone in. I flunk every time. But he was helping to make the comp they needed to come from LaGrange. So from there we went to Camp Robinson, or to Camp Grant for orientation for 3 days in Rockford. And then I was sent to down to Tennessee, then to Arkansas for pre-medical training for the Army. And basic training, we had 1 month of August, which was very hot. And then the month of September, which turned out just the opposite. It was a very cool month. The other interesting thing that happened there was they had huntless, so we stayed in our facility there. And ours happened to be the one next to the mess hall. And we had a man, a Sergeant Monahan, I'll never forget that man. He had been a guard in Leavenworth Prison before he got into service, and he was in the hut with us. Whenever the kitchen needed help, they sent us over to the kitchen to peel potatoes, set tables, and other things when they didn't have personnel. So that was during basic training. It's like the first year, at the start. We took long marches outside of camp and camped out in several places. And on one occasion, they sent me out to keep in touch with the unit that was ahead of us, and I kept in touch with them, but they didn't keep in touch with me behind. But who did Monahan blame for that? Me. I was the blame. After that, I went we were stationed there, and I became interested in medicine at that time, and I was pleased when they sent me to Smyrna Air Base in Smyrna, Tennessee, which is halfway between Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and Nashville, Tennessee. Murfreesboro, by the way, was the hometown of General MacArthur's wife, and Middle Tennessee is there. And I became a surgical technician there, helping in surgery after being sent in the month of November down to Little Rock, down to Atlanta, Georgia, for training at Lawson General Hospital. And so I worked in surgery there for quite a while. But then at the base, they were pilots for learning to fly there, B-24 bombers, up and down, up and down, up and down. And one of the other men, soldiers there with me was a farmer from up in Minnesota. And we decided one Sunday we'd like to go up in one of those airplanes because neither one of us had ever been up in an airplane. So we went down on the Sunday to where they were going up and down and up and down. And he wanted to stop at the PX and get a couple of beers before we got to the plane. I said, I don't want to do anything like that. We're going up in an airplane. And so he did, and we got up in the airplane. He put us back in the Bombay section. It was a very cold day, and it was cool in the airplane. And he was doing great, fine, but who didn't feel good? Me. The pilot came back and asked him, wanted me to get out of the plane. He said, no, but I stuck it out for about 2 or 3 more up and down flights. But after that, I was sent to Bowling Green, Kentucky, to Western, but it was then Western Kentucky Teachers College, and that was Western Kentucky University. This was for pre-bomber training pilots. They were getting educated there, and Captain Lurie was there. He realized that I was getting interested in dentistry, and so he gave me an assignment of, there were 3 of us that went there and worked for the contract surgeon, taking care of these, or overseeing the care of these to-be pilots. And
so were most of the people who were being treated there people who were in training, or were these
they were training at the school?
People who had been injured.
There were still regular students there, but there were, I don't remember, was it at least 100 or more pilots to be were being trained there.
Yeah.
It just happens that one of the lieutenants who was over us there, I was just a private first class at the time, but one of the lieutenants that was over us there had gotten married shortly before, and his best man was Glenn Miller, who died in Europe in not a